Hello folks, welcome back to another video. This one hopefully will be shorter than last time. I'm going to try and make sure that's the case because we will only be covering Loyalist Chapter Masters today. Because, that is right, it is another tier ranking video. And we're going to throw it on here today as a part of a, a lull on a Thursday. Let's get together, have a little chat about who the most powerful Space Marine chapters, Loyalist Space Marine Chapter Masters, are in the current setting. Not chapters, chapter masters. They're the guys who lead from the front, the guys who lead your Space Marine armies in terms of loyalists. Who's the most powerful? Who would beat who in a throwdown fight in terms of generalship, and who has the best stories? That's how we rank our chapter masters, and that's how we rank everything on the channel. Number 1, are they strong in combat? Number 2, are they good generals? And number 3, what are their stories like? Okay? In the interest of time, I will only be doing Loyalist Space Marine chapters today because, I don't want to lose my mind and my voice before the evening, because that was no fun last time. My god, an hour and a half video, you kidding me? Anyway, first up, Dark Angels. Because they are the first. We always put people in the bottom first in terms of where we're gonna go and talk about them, right? So don't be alarmed if I put your favorite chapter master down here. I'm not doing that out of out of any sort of they're the worst. No, I'm literally putting it down there so we can talk about it and we know what we're currently talking about. So, Dark Angels. At the moment, Azrael is the current leader of the Dark Angels, and for me is one of the best combatants in Warhammer 40,000. We see him sparring with other chapter masters, with other Marines, beating them quite easily in most books that he appears in. He has gone one-on-one with several Chaos Champions seemingly at once, and the only time he's actually been thwarted in anything is with Vashtor coming into the rock itself. But what I'm going to do with him is bump him down a few sections for Vashtor getting the better of him. Because Vashtor is, in the Arcs of Omen, he is a demon, and he is very, very, very powerful, but a new character getting one over such an old character as Azrael kind of means that I've got to see that as a negative for Azrael. Sorry, it just is what it is. So in terms of combat, I would easily put him in B tier. Now, don't jump down my throat, please. You'll know what I mean when we go to other chapter masters later on. He's compared to everybody else, he's a B tier chapter master, where he is. Okay? In terms of generalship, kind of C tier, for letting Vashtor get the better of him. In terms of story, kind of C tier too, because Azrael essentially is, I'm telling you now, the Dark Angels. That's literally what his chapter master story is, what his background is. Azrael is a Dark Angel, right? His entire story is the prefix of the Dark Angels. It's literally, he's the most essential Dark Angel that's ever Dark Angeled, right? That's literally what he is. He needs the Dante treatment, is what he needs. He needs more love, he needs more books, he needs more care, he needs more attention, alright? Speaking of Dante, he's up next. Now, Dante, for me, is one of the most... in terms of a story, he would be near S tier. In fact, he would be an S tier for story. This is a guy who has had the Games Workshop writing machine behind him for a little bit now to bump him up because he's going to be leading the Imperium Nihilus, and I've got nothing against that. I think that's pretty cool. I love his aesthetic, I love his golden armor, I love the fact that he is a tragic warrior, a tragic character when it comes to Warhammer 40,000. He just wants to die. He doesn't want to be around anymore. I think that's just fine and dandy. He's been around for a long time, but it also shows the kind of desperate plight of the galaxy in and of itself, because we need to keep relying on this guy. Even Sanguinius' spirit feels sorry for Dante. In terms of his combat abilities, we see him besting rather large Tyranid bioforms. We see him besting quite a lot of Chaos Champions and things like that. We never really see him cross blades with anything massive of note. You know? He's not going to be an S tier for that reason. He's going to be an A tier for me. Because literally everything he does is A tier. Alright? He's an A tier combatant. He's a kind of a B tier general. We don't really see him doing much of a general thing. But he's also an A/S tier in terms of story. And to be an S tier, you need to have mostly S tier. So, that's where A is where Dante will end up. Now, let's go for the Black Templars, shall we? Helbrecht. Now, Helbrecht is one hell of a dude. He is a beast of a chapter master. His model is a shambles. As far as I'm concerned, I'm not a big fan of his model. I'm really sorry, guys. I'm just not. You know, Black Templars. I'm not going to show you, but I just want to see a bit of his lore, because there's one thing that I really like about these videos is we can just sit here sometimes and go over the lore ourselves. So, he's very good at fighting orcs, we know that, and he has that really, really, really funny duel, and I mean funny duel, with the Necron, with Imhotep, right? Absolutely. I just love that kind of a thing, because he suffers a defeat, and whilst that is a bad thing in terms of his combat prowess, I will give you that. He is an A tier combat prowess chapter master. What that defeat does against Imhotep when he has one of his hands severed, right? What that does, it bumps him up to S tier in terms of story, because we don't often see chapter masters of the new chapters getting a kicking in the teeth. And that really made him respectable to me. And the fact that he goes to such lengths to go and try and get revenge on this guy. Just go and read anything about Helbrecht. I love him. He's great, right? So, story-wise, he's S tier. Combat-wise, he's A tier. He's at least on par with Dante. Let's be honest. I think with a jetpack, Dante probably kills Helbrecht. Not going to lie. But in terms of one-on-one, he's A tier combatant. Definitely. And in terms of generalship, I'm going to put him near the S tier. We see him outflanking orcs with Black Templars. Orcs. Millions of them, right? So he's very near S tier in terms of being a chapter master, but he is in A tier for me. Right, cool. Next up, we have Carcharodons. Now, the thing with the Carcharodons, the thing with let me just see what it's oh god, what's his name? The Red Wake. What's his name? You're all screaming it, aren't you? You're all literally screaming it at me. Carcharodons, Red Wake. What the bloody hell's his name? Tyberos. That's what I'm thinking of. Tyberos. So Tyberos is a fucking unit. Tyberos is the X factor in this list. He is an absolute combat unit. This guy runs and somersaults in Terminator armor with two massive fuck-off power claws there as well. Which look like they're called Hunger and Slake. Two of the absolute coolest weapons in 40k as a whole. This guy is designed from the ground up to be a beast. Have you seen that picture of the Lamenter's Marine standing in front of Tyberos? Tyberos is like double his fucking size. Tyberos has to wear Terminator armor that is literally molded to his form. He's that fucking big. There are rumors he could be a Primarch in there, right? It could be a Primarch in there. We don't know, you know, like a clone of a Primarch or whatever. We don't know. But Tyberos, apparently his visage is also terrifying. He just looks like he's this, you know, a literal human shark with a constant, you know, grin on his face, like he's got a skull for a head, that kind of a thing. He is terrifying, okay? In all the books he appears in, he's a man of little words, but his stories are very, very, very compelling. The issue here is that he's an enigma, okay? He would be the first S tier. In fact, do you know what? A lot of you are going to kill me for doing this. Let's just do it, shall we? In terms of combat, S tier. S tier. Like, beyond S tier. This guy's a fucking unit. Alright? He beats Dante, he beats Helbrecht. I'm sorry, he does. He's too big, too powerful, and too good at what he does. Alright? In terms of generalship, I'm going to say B tier. He doesn't really need to be a general. The Carcharodons are literally ambush predators in the void. They don't need that many tactics. They follow the same thing every single time, and they're very, very, very good at what they do. Alright? And in terms of overall story, I have to give him an A tier. I'm sorry, he can't go an S tier in terms of overall story. He doesn't have too much about him in terms of story. But in terms of combat, here we are, Carcharodons fans. He is the most powerful combatant in this list so far. And I'm going to move him up to here. I'm going to move him up to there. So he's in front of Dante, and he's in front of Helbrecht for me, in terms of how cool he is. Alright? Cool. Moving on. Pedro Cantor. Imperial Fists. Pedro Cantor. What a nice boy. What a nice boy. Pedro is a lovely young man. Walks old ladies across the street, that kind of thing. Not a problem with him. In terms of combat prowess, I would have to put him down in C. He beats up orcs really well, but every single time he comes up against any sort of champion in the books that I've read with him in it, he holds his own. And if you hold your own, you go in the C tier for combat, alright? In terms of generalship, I'm going to put him in A tier for generalship. We see him doing some amazing feats against orcs, which are not easy to do, thanks to the sheer amount of orcs that are on the field at any one time. And in terms of overall story, once again, I'm going to probably put him in B tier. Mainly because his books, the books that are on the Crimson Fists, are not really about him. They're about the chapter as a whole. Even though he's got a lot to do with it, it's about the chapter as a whole. And even though they are very good books, I have to be very careful with this video to not spoil too many books for you guys. So he's going in B tier. That's just my opinion. And overall, in terms of his combat prowess being okay, and my own opinion of him, he's going in C tier. Don't murder me, please. Don't murder me, please, Crimson Fists, alright? Alright. Let's get on with it. Let's get on with it. Imperial Fists are next. Have a little look-see, shall we? Now, here's a fun fact for you Imperial Fists fans out there. Really fun fact. Is that the chapter master of the Imperial Fist, or at least as it was, as a thing, for me was always Darnath Lysander. He was always the chapter master that I thought should have been leading the Imperial Fists. He's just an absolute body unit who would absolutely run roughshod over most other things in the Imperium. Just my opinion on him, you know? He should be the chapter master. I don't know what's happened with him recently. Maybe some of you Imperial Fist fans can tell me. But as far as I know, he's supposed to be the chapter master, but he's not. You know what I mean? We sort of have a what's his name? The current guy, Gregor Decian. Is that his name? The normal guy, the current guy, Gregor Decian. Yeah. Anyway, that's our current Imperial Fist chapter master. And I'm sorry, if I had a I don't know section here, I'd throw him in there. I have no idea who this guy is. Literally no idea. He doesn't even have a... let me look at it on the wiki. No, he doesn't even have a page on the wiki. Alright? That's how little known this guy is. Let's see. Gregor Decian. Let me just... Gregor Decian. Gotta be around somewhere. No, he literally doesn't have a thing. He's under chapter master. But that's it. Alright? So I'm going to put him in don't know. He doesn't have a story as far as I'm concerned, because I can't actually see one. So, he's going there. And you know what? I'm going to put him... Well, we'll put them in Y. This is the I don't know, alright? I don't know the chapter master. There we go. I don't know the chapter master. Right? I know his name. Don't know much about him. Okay? Cool. Moving on. Oh, here's a good one. Here's a good one. Gabriel Seth. We'll put our staging post for our chapter masters now is C tier. We'll put them in there and then argue where they're going to go. Gabriel Seth. My giddy aunt. What a cool cool chapter master Gabriel Seth is. I will be honest with you, as a general, he's getting D tier because he literally doesn't need to do anything. He says, forwards unto the enemy. Let's go and beat the shit out of them. And that's what he does. In terms of combat, this is another S tier combatant in terms of combat. He is well up there. An absolutely amazing combatant is Gabriel Seth. And in terms of story, this is an A tier an A tier chapter master. He has the immortal lines of, what would we want Primaris Marines for? They're just Ultramarines coloured red. There are very, very, very few characters in Warhammer 40,000 who are afforded the honour, nay, the privilege of being the voice of the community. Gabriel Seth is one of those people. Again, please go and read any books to do with Gabriel Seth. He is in the Devastation of Baal. Brilliant book. He is an amazing chapter master in terms of embodying what his chapter is. Gabriel Seth is bloodshed and rage tempered. Barely tempered, but he is tempered, right? He's struggling to hold on to his honour, whatever he's got. But I'm going to put Gabriel Seth. He is an A tier combatant. He is a D tier general. But in terms of story, you know what? I'm gonna make a revision here. He's gonna go in A tier. But I'm going to make a revision. All right. Dante's story is good enough for me that he should be in S tier. That's where he should be. So Dante's our first person in S tier. I've just realised that now that I'm looking at Gabriel Seth. I'm like, well, he can't be in there with Dante because Dante is legitimately better than him in every way. So Dante has to go in S tier for me. Gabriel Seth goes in A tier though, and a well-deserved A tier for him. One of my favourite chapter masters. Okay, cool. Again, I don't know enough about the Iron Hands chapter master. He goes in there. Don't know enough about the Raven Guard dude. I know he's the guy, Kyvan Shrike. I know he's cool, but I don't know enough about him. Salamanders 2, you know, he likes forges. He goes in there. Jubal Khan's another one. Again, these are not chapter masters I know a lot about. Jubal Khan, by the way, shouldn't be the chapter master. There are a few people here who shouldn't be the chapter master of their own chapter. Jubal Khan's one of them, and Gregor Desian is another one. You know, you have Corsaro Khan right there, and you have Dryson Lysander right there. They should be the chapter masters. Stop trying to be fucking clever, Games Workshop, and let me talk about your cool characters, not the ones you've just said are the chapter masters. Alright? Cool. Calgar. Oh boy. Oh boy. It's time for Calgar. Daddy Calgar. Now, what can you say about Calgar? The quintessential Warhammer 40,000 chapter master. In the point that, in terms of combat, I would easily throw him in A tier. Not a problem. In terms of combat, you know. Probably a bit low down. Probably at the lowest ebb of A tier, to be honest with you. I think Tyberos is killing him. I think Helbrecht probably kills him. I think Gabriel Seth, if he let himself go, probably kills him. You know, he's come back from the dead so many times, I can't even count it in terms of Calgar. But in terms of combat, A tier, just A tier. Do you know what, actually? No. No, he's been beaten up by a Swarm Lord. B tier. B tier. Yeah, B tier for combat for Calgar. But he is an S tier general, as most Ultramarine leaders are. His combat is not his strong suit. Absolutely being a beast as a general is S tier, easy. In terms of story, again, I would say S tier, but he gets so much airtime that I can't give him that. You know, that would be a ridiculous thing, so I cannot give him that. So I'm going to put him in A tier for that, and that averages him out to an A tier chapter master. That is where Calgar is going in terms of how good he is and where he's going to end up. In terms of the Salamanders, actually, I do know a little bit about this guy, so I'm gonna throw him in there for now. In fact, that's likely where he's going to stay. Why? There are certain chapter masters in Warhammer 40,000, right? Who you look at them and you say, okay, who is this chapter master and what does he do, right? And you literally have to say, Tushan, yeah, he's basically the most salamandery salamander who ever salamandered. That's exactly what he is, right? Guy loves his flames, guy's a master smith, guy punches people in the face who are all chaos, and things like that. And he's been in very many war zones. Armageddon's one of them. He was there fighting away in Armageddon. You know, he did battle with Ghazghkull and survived, which is pretty cool, right? But in terms of everything that you hear about chapter masters like this, you hear he fought with distinction. Okay, don't know what that means. And he's basically the exemplar of his chapter. All right, cool. I need to hear more about them, Games Workshop, please. I know Cave and Shrike is an exception there. I know that. I know Jubal Khan is an exception there. But everybody else, your Imperial Fist chapter master, Decian, I need to hear more about that guy. I need to hear more about Tushan. I need to hear more about Pedro Cantor. I need to hear more about the Iron Hands. We need more coverage of these dudes. We don't need another Avenging Sun Ultramarines novel, alright? He's staying in C for now, but at least he got a ranking, and because there's nothing to know about him and anyone else on that list there. Alright, last two. And these are going to be controversial, which is why I saved them till last. And you know who I'm going to talk about. You know who I'm talking about. Oh, God. Logan Grimnar. Right. Let's get it out the way, shall we? If Logan Grimnar crosses blades with Kaldor Draigo, he gets his shit pushed in. That's just all I'm going to say on that one, alright? He's not going in S tier. I will tell you that now. Logan Grimnar is, again, he suffers from the same thing as the Salamanders Tushan, in that he's the most Space Wolf-free Space Wolf who ever Space Wolfed, right? But also, the lore bends over backwards to accommodate Space Wolves, and Logan Grimnar is no exception. The guy carries around with him a fucking ornate demon axe. Right? And he's not a Grey Knight. He just carries it around. It's like a big fuck you to the rules of the setting. I'm a Space Wolf, so I get preferential treatment. I can do whatever I want. I'm Logan Grimnar. The guy has a sled like Santa. Come on, dude. I know we've got to be a bit funny. It is 40k. But there's got to be a line. There's got to be a line. And the Space Wolves just shit all over it every single time. Alright? His art's cool, his combat style's cool, and Logan Grimnar could be the coolest guy in the entire setting, but he's not. Why? Because Games Workshop wrote him and they don't know how to write people like this who are a generation for memes. In terms of combat, he has to go in S tier for combat because he did legitimately kill a Grey Knight's Grandmaster, although he did it like a fucking coward by attacking him from behind before he could even react. Yeah. Very honourable there, you know, very honourable. But he still did it. It's still a feat that he did. So in terms of combat, he goes in S tier. In terms of generalship, he goes in C tier. Alright, again, a lot of these combat-ready chapters don't really do very well in terms of generalship. And the Space Wolves are no different. The Space Wolves are generally quite independent. They don't need good generalship, you know what I mean? They're very compartmentalised. Unlike the Ultramarines, I've always thought that the Ultramarines, once separated from their command structure, would really struggle. Right? In real life, let's be honest. If the Ultramarines are separated from their command structure, they will really struggle, because they're not independently minded. They don't think for themselves, really. The Space Wolves, you take 10 Space Wolves, take them away from their chapter, throw them somewhere on a world, and they will fight as a cohesive force very effectively. They don't need Logan Grimnar. So a lot of these chapter masters who aren't very good at generalship, like Seth, Gabriel Seth, you know what I mean? Like Tyberos the Red Wake, Like Logan Grimnar, they don't need to be good generals. They are the exemplars of their chapters. That's the kind of chapter master that they are, right? Now, and in terms of his story, again, he's the most Space Wolf-free Space Wolf who ever Space Wolfed. Okay? Because of his S tier combat rank, he's going in B tier. But that is only saving grace for me. Okay? He's a poor general, because he doesn't need to be a good general, let's be honest. But he's also, his story, again, dude, it's cringe as fuck. It's just cringe. He's the top Space Wolf. Basically what he is. He's just an absolutely beast of a Space Wolf. That's his entire story. Right? I mean, the Morcar axe should be something that you look at and you're like, wow, you know, that's really cool. Where did he get that from? How did that happen? And all we're told is that he took it from a Chaos Champion. Okay. You know, well, like, is there anything else that we can see that he did? You know, did he do anything else to get that? I mean, a lot of this stuff is covered in Space Wolf books. I've only read 2 Space Wolf books in my entire career as somebody who loves Warhammer, to be honest with you. But I'm going to be honest. He's another one of these characters who somebody else from their chapter might make a better chapter master, and that's Ragnar Blackmane. Blackmane's got a really cool story. A very long story, too. Logan Grimnar's kind of follows the Space Wolves in general, you know? Whatever this Space Wolf chapter does, Grimnar's there kicking ass, right? That's generally Logan Grimnar's story. Whereas Ragnar Blackmane, he kind of goes on and does his own thing. He's got quite an interesting story to him as well. Maybe I'll cover him one day. But anyway, that's where he is. He's in B tier, and I think it's very fitting that the Dark Angels and the Space Wolves go side by side so they can butt heads in there. Now, Kaldor Draigo. They are a Space Marine chapter. They are a Space Marine chapter. You're not gonna like this, because you know what I'm gonna say. In terms of combat, guys, again, Matt Ward treatment, I know, but they've not retconned it, so it's still there. I don't like it either. I'm a Grey Knight fan and I don't like it. But Logan Grimnar kicked Mortarian's ass way before he became the most powerful version of himself. So, Kaldor Draigo is just a normal Grey Knight at this time, right? And he kicks Mortarian's ass. That is a demon Primarch. A demon Primarch who killed Rabute Guilliman. Yes, I know the Emperor resurrected him, but he still did it. So what you're telling me, Games Workshop, is if Rabute Guilliman and Kaldor Draigo crossed paths, that Draigo would smash him into from pillar to post. This is a Primarch beater. Yeah. Not saying I agree with it, I'm telling you like it is. It's just a fact. Kaldor Draigo, Primarch beater. Twice. You know? Literally. Primarch beater. This is a guy who has been in the warp for so long. Right? He set fire to all these different things that the Emperor did with Guilliman. You know, set fire to Nurgle's garden. Draigo did that already. He did that like 20 years ago in the lore, right? Again, this is a guy who needs a retconning. He needs to be pulled back into the power levels of current 40k, and not be so Matt Warded up. But the lore as it stands now, he's the most deadly Space Marine chapter master by a long way, by a country mile. This guy shits on nearly every single one of these combat chapter masters. You know, unfortunately. In terms of his generalship, we don't know. We don't know, so he goes in C for generalship. So S tier for combat, C for generalship, and in terms of his story, it's so bonkers and so in-depth in terms of what Matt Ward did with him that he has to go in S tier. Alright? So he is the second S tier chapter master. In fact, I will put him above Dante there because in a one-on-one fight, he would beat Dante in the current lore. I'm not saying I agree with it. I'm not sitting here saying all that opinion is completely true and I just think it's fact. No, it's not fact. I don't agree with the lore giving Kaldor Draigo such a hand job. I don't agree with it, right? I think the lore should be more equitable in terms of power levels, and more, shall we say, reliable in terms of power level, right? A beats C, A beats C beats D, that kind of thing. That kind of thing. Rather than having, Draigo beats this guy in one day and another type day. You know what they'll do? If Grimnar and Draigo fight, Grimnar will win. Because we can't have the Space Wolf players crying. Because that's what they'll do, Grey Knight players just sit there and take it. We've had all of our cool lore either retconned or taken away from us. We've been powered down in the hobby to the extent that we're kind of a joke, right? We've got Marines that are 20 years old still. No Primaris, no nothing. But, we sit there and take it on the chin. Faithful players, absolutely not. If you had Draigo coming back and killing or beating Grimnar, you would never hear the end of it. Ever. You know why? Because mouth-breathing morons out there still think that Matt Ward is a thing. And that, just because Matt Ward gave the Grey Knight something once, that they should be punished for the rest of time in terms of the lore. No. No. Keep Draigo as one of the most powerful chapter masters. He should beat everybody on this list in terms of combat, but he shouldn't be beating Primarchs. No chapter master, without extremely extenuating circumstances, should be beating Primarchs. Alright? Now, put it this way. Yusharo Dugal, the chapter master of the Void Talons. Go and look him up, he does exist. He exists. Now, he doesn't have very much lore. I filled out his lore. And for those of you who are in the know, you know that Yusharo Dugal, who is our chapter master for the channel, is a clone of Angron, but a clone without the Butcher's Nails. But just because he's a clone of Angron doesn't mean he can beat a Primarch in single combat. He can't. Why? He's not as experienced. He's not had as much time to bed in his skills. If he fought Angron, he could hold Angron off for a while, Demon Angron, but eventually he'd get torn in half. If he fought even Guilliman, he would hold Guilliman off, maybe even give Guilliman a hell of a bloody nose, and maybe even put him at death's door, but he'd still get beaten and die. No chapter master, even a chapter master who might be a Primarch, should be beating a Primarch in single combat. And I think that about Kaldor Draigo as well. But even with that taken away, even with that not being the case, I still think he's the most powerful chapter master that I know of in terms of combat skill. If you know anything about Jubal Khan or Caven Shrike or anyone else that I've not discussed here, who is extremely powerful and could beat Kaldor Draigo, put it in the comment section down below. I'm always willing to be proved wrong on these things. But from what I've read, guys, no, there's literally nobody in terms of being a Space Marine chapter master who could stand up against him one-on-one. In terms of being a general, sure. Better generals out there than Draigo. Don't get me wrong, of course there is, right? Calgar would run rings around him. Definitely. In fact, he may be that insane that even somebody like Logan Grimnar would run rings around him in terms of being a general. But in terms of his story itself, being as in-depth as it is, and as an exemplar of the Grey Knights, again, he suffers from chapter masterism, as I like to call it, where he's literally the greatest Grey Knight who ever Grey Knighted. And that's what he is as GW fall into that trap all the time with their writing. And I think we're uncovering that with these videos. The more of these we do, the more you see that Games Workshop literally say, what should Tushan be for the Salamanders? Well, he should be a really good Salamander. All right, then let's do that. That's literally every chapter master. There's not one chapter master with the depth and the breadth of, say, an Argel Tal. No, we need the Horus Heresy treatment for some of these guys. Deathly so. Deathly so. Thank you very much. Anyway, that's my tier list for now on ranking chapter masters. I know we've only done a few, but at the same time, that's the information I've got, and that's the information that we have. Two of these I'm very guilty of not reading up on, and that's Caven Shrike and Jubal Khan. Not read up on either of those anywhere near as much as I wanted to. But our Iron Hands here and our Imperial Fists, we need a lot more lore for them, please, Games Workshop. Come on now. There's our Loyalist section, though. If you can think of any more that you want me to go over, then let me know, and I will try and get through them next time in a tier list. I love you all a long time. I will speak to you very, very, very soon. Have a wonderful, wonderful rest of your day. See you tomorrow. Bye now.